So I've obviously prepared and got Joblogic open. You're all sort of seasoned Joblogic users, or if not, you've obviously completed your training, you know what the job desk is, you know about the Servlogic menu up here, and also you've got your Servlogic icon there, which is on your top of your screen. So to log a job inside the job desk itself, we've got two options. We've got our spanner and screwdriver in the top left hand corner, or we've got our red telephone on the right hand side. Now I'm a little bit biased towards this telephone, so I tend to use it in a lot of my training, just because my job desk is open a lot, and it is, if I'm honest, it's probably the closest icon to my mouse. When I click on log job, I get my job type menu, which is obviously housed and built inside CoreLogic, and I can choose from my 4 job types that I have in my data set. Now each one of you will have either something similar or slightly different, but in here we are used to seeing call out, installation, maintenance, stock sales, emergency call out, anything like that. Okay, so I'm going to click on call out job. Once I've got my job screen open, you can see that obviously there's a lot of white spaces, but if your data is set up correctly and you've listened to your trainers in training, this should be a case of just answering a few questions, and this should self-populate quite quickly. So again, we tend to read from left to right in this country, so what we tend to teach you in training is use these tabs in the middle of the screen as a divide between the top and the bottom. The reason we ask you to do that is to fill in the top first from left to right, and then you don't really need to touch it again. Okay, you can edit certain things, but if you get this right and set up, everything else you do on the job is all involving these tabs in the middle and your buttons, your job action buttons on the right hand side. I'm going to choose my task type. Again, this is a search menu, so I could put in here that I wanted to look for AC, and it will only show me my AC. Okay, you can obviously, these task types are for you, and you set them up in your way, but I've got AC, I can set up and look at boiler and so on, and it will quite simply give me the options that I'm looking for. I'm going to double click and put boiler leaking on this job here, and then I'm going to go and look for the next question for my customer. So I'm just going to use ABC housing will be fine. I get a pop-up, an information pop-up saying please make sure you get an order number. So this again is set up in the customer's account in CoreLogic using the man with the red tie up here, or your CoreLogic menu, and this is purely internal. Okay, this is just for you guys in the office, and I just OK it just to acknowledge the fact that I've read that. It gives me my full details of my customer here, which now, because I've hit these tabs, as we said earlier, I'm going to move over to the right hand side, and I'm simply going to search for the site that I'm looking for. Now you could have one site here, you could have 400, it all depends on the size of your customers. I'm going to type in the start of an address, I can type in a postcode, I can type in a word from the address, and it'll go and find it for me. And then I simply click on there, and I get another information pop-up saying make sure they have room in the car park for us. So again, that's warning my call logger, my service desk, whoever's taking this call, make sure they've got room for the engineer in the car park so he can park up to get access to his tools, etc, etc. When I click on OK, it then logs my job. You can see my job number has appeared at the top, so I've got C38 here, and also that I've got contact details for the site on the right hand side of the site here. These are editable, guys, so this is editable based on this job. So if you know Mr. Richards is on holiday and it's Mr. Jones that's going to be looking after the engineer, then you can put Mr. Jones's name in there, and he may have given you a mobile, and you can just type your mobile over that number. This will not affect the original record in the back end of Joblogic. In CoreLogic, this still sits in there safely tucked away with the original contact. If Mr. Richards has left and you want to change that contact, then you can do so by accessing the core data by using this little blue pick button here, or you can simply leave it till later. Okay, so with that filled in, I'm pretty happy, it's pretty full. I can now start using my tabs in the middle of the screen here, and straight away the default tab when you open a job is the details. So I've got my job number, it's telling me it's chargeable based on the contract type and rates that I've got set up. And first question, have I been given an order number? Well, if you remember back to this customer when we set it up, it asked me to make sure I put an order number in, so I'm just going to make one up, like so. It's now asking me if I want to put a priority response time into this job. So this is your, as some of you will know, your KPI results. So if you deal with response time, you deal with things called SLAs, service level agreements. This is where they live. So in here, you could put 24-hour response, 8-hour response, 2-hour response, 6-day response, whatever you want to choose by creating, again, if there isn't your choice here that you want, you can simply click on this blue pick button, go in and insert a new option of 4-hour to this menu. Okay, I'm just going to choose emergency response. So as you're probably guessing, wherever you see these blue pick buttons, guys, this is where it's going to allow you to take a shortcut into the back end of the system, create a new menu option or a new entry in the database, and then be able to choose it and use it inside this job. My details. Brief description of what's wrong. Don't go into War and Peace. You have a notes section for that, which we can talk about a little bit later, because we've got the beauty in there of deciding whether certain notes are public and certain notes are private. The details is really for you on your job desk and your engineer on his mobile phone, and obviously if you use Weblogic to let your customers look at the job, it gives them a snapshot of what they're looking at. If you look behind my job screen here, it's this bit we're talking about. Okay, it's that snapshot. So I'm just going to put that okay, nice, simple. There is a 255 character limit in there, but again, try and keep it short, snappy, to the point, and then use your notes section if you want to go into, as we said, War and Peace. Once I've done that, at this point I'm going to save this. And I'm simply going to then just close this just to show you the fact that the job is logged and I've got a nice green bar across there. The priority system uses what we know as like a traffic light system. So basically green is telling us that it's safe, and then obviously it will move to amber to warn you that it's getting closer to its KPI or its priority response or SLA deadline. And then finally, as you can see in some of my example dummy jobs here, they've gone red to say we've missed it. So if you use our KPI report, or if you use Weblogic to look at any results on the dashboard, these 4 red jobs here are going to fail out of target. Okay. Right, so I'm going to come back to my job in a few minutes. What I want to talk to you about at the moment is just this desk here. Now the service desk query screen, or the job desk as some people call it the help desk, the dashboard, whatever you want to call it, we're used to hearing it, so you don't have to stick to the name SDQ. It's broken up into 4 parts. So we've got our filters at the top here, we've got our statuses on the left here, our main window in the middle, and our job action buttons on the right hand side. So I just want to take a couple of minutes and explain to you what it can do and the power of it, if you like, because a lot of people do say when we open it, it's a pretty daunting looking screen, but if you're not using the filters, hide them. Just click on the top of the filters, the word filters there, that bar, and it will tuck them away. So I don't need to see my filters. Now suddenly it looks a lot cleaner. I can even do the same for my job statuses, like so. So I give myself a nice full screen. I like the job status, so I'm going to keep these for our training. What we're going to look at is how these filters and statuses work together. Now, with the filters, the way to think about them is, what are you trying to find? What question are you asking Joblogic? Okay, it's going to go away and it's going to perform a search and it's going to return some results. So let's look at this part first. So what I could say to it is, I want to see a job type, so I just click on the filter I want here, and all I want to see on my job desk is a call out. I can refresh it and there are all my call outs, and you know they're call outs because I've prefixed me and mine with C for call out, and I can see I've got nothing but call outs there. So it's quite an easy, simple search to start with. I could then say, well, what I want to do is I want to see all my call outs in postcode area B9. Again, I can query that, and there's all my jobs in B9. Okay, just use the red X to clear it. I could say I want to see all my call out jobs where they were logged between a specific date and time. I can see when they've been completed between a specific date and time, or I could say show me all my call outs where the task type is boiler leaking, and it will show me all my boiler leaks. Okay, now there's something I say there, and I do this in training a lot. I say it on purpose slightly wrong. If you listen, what I was saying was show me all my call out jobs, show me all my boiler leakings for my call out jobs. The word all is technically incorrect, because what I'm actually showing you is just outstanding calls. So if we rewind a second and just go back up to this call out up here and just have nothing but call outs, you can see I've got a good half screen of call outs there. But what I was saying was show me all my call out jobs. So if we rephrase that to show me all my call out jobs I've ever done, I would need to tick my completed statuses. You see, these search filters go away and find the information, but the status boxes on the left hand side dictate what Joblogic shows you, the user. Okay, so if you imagine this as a little bot, a little robot in the background, it goes running away, it comes back, it collects all the data, it brings it up to the gate, and if you like, the gatekeeper says nope, all they've asked to see is outstanding jobs, or all they've asked to see is completed jobs, and suddenly your results are a lot different. So show me all my call out jobs that we've invoiced, and so on. Alright, so bear that in mind. These filters are really powerful. You can use multiple filters to get the information, the statistics, the whatever it is you're looking for by using them combined. There's no limit. So in theory you could say show me all my call outs in B9 where the engineer was Dave. The appointment date was Saturday the 27th, it was logged by Vicky, the task type was a boiler leak and the asset was a baxi. It would go away and find you every job that matched that criteria. Okay, but remember your status is what it's going to come back with. So it may return a result of nothing for outstanding, but the moment you tick completed, invoiced, etc., it finds 3 or 4 of them. Alright, hopefully that makes sense, guys. I was just opening my job. I get my warning boxes that come up again, so remember they always show, it doesn't matter. Guys, I'll be perfectly blunt with you, they're designed to be a pain in the bum for that very reason. It makes you aware of the message every time you interact with the job, just so nothing is missed. So we've looked at our filters now and our statuses. We're just going to have a quick look around the job screen and make sure that you guys obviously are using everything you need to use and so on. Okay, so what we're going to have a look at then is now just a few of these tabs. We're going to take a brief sort of overview, a brief tour if you like, of these tabs, explain what they do, show you a couple of things, and then we'll move on to this right hand side. So the quoted details tab, this will only have information inside it if you've either raised a quote from within inside Quotelogic and upgraded it to a job. So you've gone into the Quotelogic dashboard using Quotelogic here, and you've raised a quote, the customer said yes, and you've hit the upgrade button and passed all the information into the job screen. That will then populate this area for you with a link to the quote. It will show you the value, it will show you any reference and budgets and so on. But also you can raise a quote from within inside this tab. So if your engineer, for instance, goes to fix a boiler, he fixes a boiler and says, oh, they're asking for a quote to replace 2 radiators or whatever it might be, then you can, if you want to link it back to this job, you can raise a new quote from within inside this tab. What it will do then is if the customer then fast forward and says yes for the 2 new radiators, you hit upgrade, it will log a job with this number but a /001 at the end to show you, the Joblogic user, that this job belongs to a parent job. So this sub job belongs to a parent job. Okay, so that's the 2 reasons you would see any information inside here. The asset screen, What the asset screen will do is allow you to log an asset to the job itself for the engineer's benefit. Okay, if you put an asset into the job, when the engineer looks at the assets on the mobile, he'll see the one you specifically have chosen for that job. He can remove it if it's the wrong one, but what it will make him do is if he just tries to skip past it, when he completes the job, it'll warn him that there are assets that have yet to be finalized on the job. So it will sort of give him an advance warning that he hasn't gone into the asset screen and he hasn't ticked it off as fit for purpose, passing any tests or serviced. Okay, so we could just choose that combi boiler there and it will put all my information inside the job. And as you can see, it's warning me because we installed this boiler, the labour warranty has expired. But also we get all this lovely information. Not only do you get all this information, your engineer gets all this information on the mobile as well. Okay, so it's a really good thing to do. If they phone up and they say it's in training room number 3, the asset number is JOB0078, it's leaking, happy days. Drop it into the job, does nothing but benefit all of you. Okay, fault codes, I might come back to them a bit later. They are pretty distinctive to who uses these. Obviously the way to look at it and the way we train it is it can be a third level of information on the job, and what we mean by that is you've got a job type of call out, you have a task type of boiler leaking, you could then have a further fault code of what the actual leak was, what the resolution was, or so on. I won't say not many, I say quite a lot of our clients use this, but there's a bigger percentage that don't. But if we have time, I'll pop back to these later and we can have a bit of a chat about them. The engineers tab. Okay, so you guys know that we have a diary in Joblogic called Date Logic. We obviously encourage you in training to use the diary to schedule and arrange engineers' work. But you can, if you want to, insert an engineer into a job from this screen and deploy it to him from this screen. Now all we ever talk to you about in training, guys, is we're happy for you to do this as long as you've got eyes on that engineer's schedule, workload, diary, whatever you want to call it. Okay, if he stood right next to you saying give me a job, then great, just deploy it to him. You know he's not going to have another job. But the danger of doing it in here is you could be booking it blind and somebody else has pinched the engineer literally seconds before you've entered your job. Okay, so I'm going to book my engineer in for 2 o'clock and I'm going to save it. Now the moment I save it, it's got a deploy to PDA button lit up here. Don't worry about the send equipment notes. This is for our customers that have been with us for many years who are still on PDA logic. There's not many now, thankfully. We're moving them all over to mobile. This used to be a function, but when you press deploy to PDA, the engineer gets everything we've just spoken about anyway. Are you sure you want to send this? Yes, I am. And do you want to send him the plant and items in the plant room, etc.? Yes, please. Okay, so that's on its way now, and what we'll see appear on this job desk in a minute is a little question mark saying we're waiting for the engineer to answer me. Related jobs, well, if you think back to what I was talking about on quoted details, what I was talking about sub jobs, if you raise a sub job to this main parent job as they call it, the sub job will be listed in here and vice versa. If you open a sub job on your job desk, it will show you in here the details of the parent job. So this is just making you clearly aware that there is a job related to this job and there's a reason for it. The history, nice little section, shows you every single job you've performed on that site, obviously since you've been using Joblogic, and you can go into it, double click, have a look round, have a look at any quoted details, any engineers, any notes, any attachments, purchase orders, mobile forms, etc. So it's a quick reference if your customer is on the phone and they're pretty mad about something and they, you were here 2 weeks ago to install the new AC, we can give them real-time information, what happened, who did it, where the parts are ordered from, what the engineer said, etc., etc. Okay, so it's a nice quick reference. It saves you having to go back here and find any historical work. Joblogic Mobile. Now obviously this is where everything comes back from the engineer, and we're going to be talking about this next week, so I'm not going to spoil that for you. And the no access as well, we'll mention that probably next week with the mobile, just to tie it all together, as it kind of makes a bit of sense using it on that. They're those what we call job information tabs. As we said, they're there, the life of the job, they're always there, they're there when the job's completed, and they're there for you to view and use at any time. What I'd like to do now is just quickly show you down this right hand side of job action buttons, and just make sure obviously you guys aren't missing any tricks, or if there's something new there you haven't spotted before, we can have a chat and go through about how to use it. On our finance webinars, which will be starting in a couple of weeks, and the email should be going out in the next few days, we're going to look at purchase orders, and we're going to look at invoicing and so on. So I'm going to leave this other than to say that this button allows you to raise a supplier purchase order or a subcontractor purchase order directly to this job. Okay, so what it will do is take all the information you've already carefully put in there, preempt it, put it in the purchase order, and just say, right, what are you ordering? So it's a really good fast shortcut into getting a purchase order raised quickly. But again, we will talk about it in the finance webinars, which is our next set of webinars, as we will the cost screen, but I'm going to come back to this a little bit later, just to give you a sort of head start, if you like. The notes section is where I really want to focus now as part of this webinar. The notes section really, myself and Glenn, when we're training, we can't emphasize enough that you document anything about the job inside the job. So any emails, any phone calls, etc., etc., you're going to do one thing. If you document it, you're going to back yourself up. Your colleagues are going to be able to see everything. If you go out for lunch or you're off on holiday, everything is in one place. Okay, you're not scratching around looking for that post-it note. Did we put that on the Excel spreadsheet? Was this sent as an email? Put it in Joblogic. There is no restrictions of how much you can have in here. Okay. What you can see in front of you, firstly at the top, again, standard Joblogic filters. You can search the any of the notes for keywords, or you can search the notes created by a certain person. So if you had 10, 12 notes in here created by 3 different people, you could just view the one particular person you're looking for. It defaults to show you both sets of notes, so public and private, and at the moment we're looking at everything. Okay, and obviously you hit your search button to action any search that you're carrying out. I've got site notes preempted here that were more than likely set up when I put my site into the system, and it's telling me to pick up my parking pass, and there's a private note saying go to reception, they'll come and get you and take you upstairs. So these are site notes that have been put on the site record. These will appear on every single job you log for this site, regardless of why you're going. So if I say on here, don't park in Floodgate Street, I can basically put that in, mark it as private. If I put it as a site note, even inside my job, I can highlight it as a site note and add it. If I go and log a job now for 117 the Zelig at this site, this will appear straight away inside the job, as will the other 2. Okay, so site notes, regardless where you're going, they're going to show up. Job notes are obviously what the customer's told you that you want to pass on to the engineer. So let me type some things in. Like so. So, boiler leaking badly, and has been since early this morning, like so. I'm leaving it as a public job note, and I'm going to add it into there. So this is my public job note. This will appear on my job report, this will appear on my mobile, appear in my Weblogic, and so on. What I'm also going to do is give the engineer who's on this job, and I can select from the drop down if there's multiple engineers, a specific note. So I might say, now I might want to say take little Dave with you as he needs a practice, but only show it to Paul. So if I booked this job to Paul and Dave, but chose to add this to Paul's engineer's notes, little Dave won't see this. Okay, so when you choose the engineer, that engineer is the only person that's going to see those notes. Alright, the attachments, again, terminology we tend to use in training. Any electronic file you wish to add to the job, you can. Spreadsheets, Word documents, pictures, whatever it might be, as long as it's an electronic file and you obviously have the Windows program that can open it, you can attach it to the job. Now, people always ask us, is there a limit when we're in training? You know, is there a size limit and so on? We just talk about the lovely term fair usage policy. We don't mind you uploading as many Word documents, photos, etc., to jobs as you want. But obviously, you know, we've come across, and as you can probably imagine, we deal with CCTV, drainage companies and so on. And they film when they're like rodding down drains, or they film particular jobs they're doing, and they try and upload them to Joblogic. These can be sort of 10, 20, 30 meg files, and as soon as you add 4, 5, 6 of them, suddenly you're using a lot of server space. So we just say, just to be considerate, fair usage, but again, nobody's ever sort of crossed the line. We've never had to warn anyone. So just sort of fill your boots and we'll let you know if you've overstepped the mark, so to speak. To insert an electronic file, all you do is click on the insert button, give it a description. I'm just going to put parking pass, click on OK, and then all it's going to do is allow you to go and look for your file, be it you've dragged or dropped it to the server or internally on your own network. Okay, so I'm just going to choose this pump manual I've got here just for speed and click on OK. So now that's there, it's in Joblogic. What I mean by it's in Joblogic, it's embedded in the database. So if you lose that file your end, as in your server or your desktop on your local drive, it's always going to be in Joblogic. Okay, obviously we've got, you know, very strict and very good backup procedures as well, so that's pretty safe with us. You can switch it to public or private. This can have an effect on what your engineers see with a setting in mobile that we can turn on or off for you, where you can allow your engineers to see all attachments, or you can turn off private ones. You can delete it, or you can email it. So you can email it to anybody listed with the job, or you can free type an email address straight in there and send it straight from Joblogic. I'm not going to go through all of these because some of these are going to be a webinar in their own right, especially like SORs and rates. You can email, text only emails direct from Joblogic, but what I'd say to you about this, guys, is just sort of hold fire if you don't use these now. Wait for the next release or so next year, because we're going to be doing a lot of automated email functions. We're introducing those very soon. Log in a sub job. So again, why do people use sub jobs? You can use them for projects. So you could raise the main job as a project and then put in, you know, phase 1 as sub job number 1. Phase 1 is the labourers and the brickies coming in. Phase 2 is my plasterers. Phase 3 is my electricians. And you can log and split up into chunks, if you like, the work on a big project. They're mainly used day to day for return visits, for extra work, but they can also be used, which it's not a negative reason, but it's the one me and Glenn see the most in training. You can log a sub job and you can have it for a return to site where a mistake has been made. So if I go in here, and I have been very well prepared there for this email, as you can see, I'm just going to quickly drop another one in. And some of them you might call it a revisit, but a lot of the time we hear it called a recall, where you're having to go back because the boiler they fixed yesterday is still leaking. Now at that moment in time, you could obviously or should have to believe the customer that it's still leaking. So you could, at this point, if you wanted to, again, it tiptoes into our next set of webinars, you could make the job non-chargeable and save it. Now what that's going to do, obviously, is you're going to deploy that to an engineer, etc. It's going to log this as a sub job, as you can see up here, to the parent job, and there's a reason we've gone back. But also your engineer can inform you if this isn't due to yesterday's repair. You can untick it as chargeable and you can change the task type at any time. Okay, but obviously what this is going to do, as I said at the beginning, a negative sort of term, you can do a search or a report in Joblogic to show you all the recalls you've had in the last 3 months where they're non-chargeable, and give me a profit and loss report on it. And that will give you all your figures for your travel, your labour, parts used, etc., where you haven't charged the customer due to a mistake being made on site. Hopefully you don't have to do that too often. And before we leave the screen, what I just wanted to pick up on, which I kind of stepped over earlier, was the statuses inside the job. All these statuses here, depending on what areas of Joblogic you use, can be automated. So when you log a job, it's a new job automatically, that happens. When I assign my engineers, you might have noticed it moved into an allocated status. When they arrive on site, it'll move into attended status. I could go through a list of obviously what all these and what triggers them for you, but it would take a few minutes. But just be safe in the knowledge, these are manually changeable at any point in the job's life, but there are rules in the background, and if you use, as I said, a full Joblogic suite, as in every module, 99% of this is automated. So you'll see these moving around and changing on your screen and so on. Okay, so last thing I wanted to just quickly show you guys, and then we'll have a bit of a question and answer session if there's any questions left, because I know Glenn's been sort of furiously typing over the other side of the room. Just wanted to talk to you and sort of introduce you to the cost screen for those that don't use it. The cost screen allows you obviously to cost this job up. Now you can see straight away when we've come in here, there's one cost in there straight away. It's actually a sell value. On my site that I've used here, I have a call out fee registered against this site. So the moment I log a job, they're automatically charged £50. Okay, so you can see that's dropped straight in there. And if you look across the top, we've got 2 columns for WIP, our work in progress, and P&L for our profit and loss. Now, for those of you guys that don't work in finance, everything remains as a work in progress cost and sell value until you invoice the job. It then becomes a profit and loss account. But you can see I've got a non-quote sell value. What we mean by non-quote is this didn't come from a quote. This is your sales value of this job. The one underneath it will give you the quote value if it came from a quoted job at the beginning. So I've got my £50 in there. Now all I wanted to sort of talk to you about here is you can manually insert lots of different categories of costs, but I don't want to go into this in too much detail. As I said, I'm going to spoil another webinar. But what I wanted to explain to you is every time you accept your engineers, if you like, workings, his figures, his travel and labour, his parts used, all the costing, sale values of expenses, etc., they all flood into the costing screen here. Okay, you've still got access to your notes, so we can still look at our notes here. We can issue stock, which is again for another day, various financial reports inside the reporting button. But I just felt it was worth touching on this today, just to show you where all the singular job costings live, and just to sort of give you a head start onto our finance webinars, which is the next batch we'll be announcing soon. As you're going through your costing, Joblogic is also warning you, or displaying, sorry, your profit and your margin, but it is in fact warning you of any PO totals that are outstanding. So if you raise a purchase order and you deliver half of it to a job, it's going to give you the delivered value, but it's going to warn you in red there's still £150 worth of parts or etc. or subcontractor costs left to deliver to this job. Okay, so other than that, guys, that's all. As I said, I really wanted to show you today. Hopefully you've learned a little bit more about the job desk, the status and the filters. Obviously, just down the right hand side here quickly before we finish is a lonely little button on its own, which is our quick search button, which will allow you to search for job numbers ending in 0016, and you can see I've got, you can see I've got 2 of them, like so. You don't have to type the entire number. You can do, you absolutely can do, like so. But if you just type in 016, you're only going to get probably one of 2 or 4 answers or whatever it might be. Okay, right, what we'd like to do now, guys, as if you've attended these webinars before, we'd like to have a little bit of a Q&A session. So again, if some of you are going to leave now, just obviously from myself and Glenn, again, thanks for your time, thanks for attending, and thanks for being involved. The ones who are staying, then please fire away with any questions and we will answer you as quickly as we can. Can you change a job type? Liz, there's two ways I can answer this. Obviously, because you're not in front of me, I'm going to try and answer them both ways. When you log a job and you save that job and you commit that job to the job desk, you cannot change the job type, okay? If you're asking me if you can change the description of a job type, in Logic, you could go into call out and make it, rename it to call out and emergencies if you wanted to, yes. But once you've logged the job, you cannot then change it from a call out, for instance, to an install. You would have to cancel the job and relog it. Okay, any more questions here? Okay, thank you very much, Linda. Very kind of you to say so. Okay. Yeah, we have got one report. Someone's asking if we've got a report of the jobs in front of us. Sorry, that's probably my mistake for not mentioning it. On the right hand side you have a reports button that does give you the job sheet or the call slip as you know it. But you also have this job report with or without notes, or no notes or including notes. And what that's going to do is basically show you a list of what's in front of you and any notes that are on it as well. So sometimes people want to print out perhaps Dave's work sheet for the day or and so on. If I just show you this, and there's a job report, with all the notes, details, and again I can fast forward to the end like so. I just saw another question pop up then. How do you make the jobs highlight in different colours? Okay, Christine's asking how these colours were in there. I think, Christine, you might have just missed that right at the start. These are job priorities or job SLAs or response times. So inside the job, what you have is a little priority box where you can set that it's a 4-hour, 6-hour, 8-hour, 24-hour response. And these are what they're used for. As we said, we described this traffic light system of green, amber and red to warn you what status the job's in. Now, if you don't use response times or SLAs, what some people do, and me and Glenn have seen this in training, is they think, okay, if I'm not going to use that for the reason it's designed for, well, why don't I just color code my jobs? So in that menu, all you'd have to do is choose the color 3 times so it never changed, and then put your jeopardy times to 999 hours. And what it means is if you say, right, call out jobs are going to be orange, my install jobs are going to be yellow, and my maintenance are going to be blue, all you would do is change these 3 colors to match on each level, and then give it a name of call out job, and then you could color code your job. What you could actually do on top of that, and please tell me if I'm losing you here, is in Logic, when you set up your job types inside the job type menu, you could give that job type a bespoke color as well. And what this is going to do is display in your diary date logic as well. So you could cover it both ways then. Okay, so this is for date logic. And the only way you would get job colors on the job desk is by using the priority. But as I said, it's designed to be used for SLAs or response times, but if you don't use them, then you can use it to color code your job by all means. Hopefully that helps. If I log a sub job, say within a project, will it be given a separate job number or given the project number? Okay, Linda, what it does is it gets given, if you can see up here, I've got my 2 jobs starting with C38, and then I've got a C38001. What that does is the project would be, the main project would be C00038, and then every part of that project that I log as a sub job will be given its own independent number. It's its own independent entity as well. So sub jobs you can deploy, you can invoice, you can raise POs to sub job, you can do everything you can do to a main job apart from log a sub job to a sub job, if that even makes English sense to you. So to answer your question, yes, raise your project as the main one, and then your sub jobs will become the bespoke numbering, if you like, of each offshoot job. Again, anything you might think of further on down the line, just please email myself or Glenn at training@joblogic.com, and we'll obviously look to answer you as quick as we can. Okay, have a great weekend everyone, and thanks for your input, thanks for your time and your attendance. Bye bye now.